I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Harry Littman of the Talking Feds YouTube channel and the Talking Fed podcast. Everybody make sure you subscribe. Harry, want to talk about some of the developments in Fulton County, Georgia. I guess two things I want to address. First, Donald Trump's legal team there filed the official appeal regarding the decision by Judge McAfee not to disqualify and not to dismiss the case, not to disqualify Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Judge McAfee had previously certified the issue to basically allow this interlocutory appeal before final judgment. Then Trump has availed himself of the appeal process, and now there's a process in place that you and I will discuss. I want to start there, and then I want to talk about after there. Do you think that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will amend the indictment based on an earlier order by Judge Scott McAfee dismissing some of the charges on a kind of a vagueness ground, but allowing an amendment to basically be made to the indictment or to Trump to be re-indicted on these additional claims? So first, let's start with Trump's appeal. Then let's talk about what happens next with these other charges that were dismissed. I think it was 3 or 4 of them as they relate specifically to Trump. Let's get into it. What do you think, Eric?
3 to Trump. Yeah. All right. So good deal. So for starters, Trump had until Tuesday, and it's not just Trump. Remember, Mike Roman, a co-defendant, brought this, and they now have 9 of them saying, yeah, we want to appeal. We want to take advantage of McAfee's permission. But what are they appealing? They're appealing the decision not to disqualify her. That's the first half of the McAfee opinion, and it's basically airtight. As he said, they needed to find a financial conflict of interest. All they could kind of come up with is, that Wade, when they were going out, would pay cash for flowers, maybe even airfare. But as McAfee said, and I think it's just impenetrable logic, there's no showing at all that she was in any way changing what she did or somehow prejudicing the rights of the defendants in order for, to get these trinket kind of stuff. So 9 of them are going to appeal. They go to the Court of Appeals, which I think has 45 days, or it might be 45 to 60 to decide whether to take the case. If the Court of Appeals takes the case, forget about it. No chance now of the Fulton County trial even being begun before November. But why would they take the case? Because that half that went against Trump that he's appealing is really basically unassailable, or that's a SAT word for no way they can win that. It's the other half where he starts talking about appearance of conflict and the like that is really sort of suspicious, but that goes against the DA, and they're not appealing unless they pull a surprise between now and Tuesday. So this is going to start a 45-day clock or so running, and McAfee is determined, we saw it just last week, to go back business as usual, try to right this, ship that just came through stormy, choppy waters with all the Fani Willis stuff, and go, normal order of business. And Willis is saying, we want to go to trial right away, etc. Now, it could come to a point where he wants to go to trial and he hasn't heard back from the Court of Appeals. But if the timing is just right, they won't take the case, and he'll know it in time to keep things on track. A lot of things have to happen for that case to go forward before the election. But that's the bottom line. I don't see why the court would take up the case. And then, by the way, they have a quick appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court, but Georgia Supreme Court can just summarily and probably would let it go. So that's that. Now those counts, so what McAfee said was they're void for vagueness because what we have you doing there is trying to get people to violate their constitutional oaths. But the oaths are I will comply with the Constitution of Georgia and the United States. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. In the federal system, you would specify, and you would just file a piece of paper. But in Georgia, you can't do that. In fact, McAfee dropped a footnote saying, ain't that too bad? you would have to go back to the grand jury. For my money, I don't see why she needs it. They don't affect sentencing. They don't affect introduction of any evidence because it all comes in under the RICO count. And I'm not exactly sure how they would shore it up anyway, because it's right that they, was just try to violate their oaths sort of generally. So with her eagerness to show, we're on track now and we're ready to go, I just don't see why she would go back to the grand jury to rewrite these, which is what she would have to do. That's my best guess.
Now that we went through that ordeal, Fani Willis has requested that the trial date be set. I mean, she was asking again for the August trial date. I mean, yeah, that would be, yes, that's not going to happen. But I mean, I think I think a trial date should be set. Why isn't, even if it's a made up trial date, but it's a placeholder, why isn't Judge McAfee doing that? Because at the very least, if people had a trial date, they were worried about the trial date, you can at least start getting plea agreements. But when there's no trial date, it leads to all this disorganization and kind of mess, and not disorganization necessarily, but it allows for the types of games that Trump wants to play that we saw them do already. So this doesn't even see, McAfee always struck me as someone who was efficient and surgical and all of these things.
Yeah.
But yet not setting a trial date is he's inviting disorganization. And let me just say this other point too, before I forget it, which is, I'll give you one criticism. I have a number of criticisms of McAfee, but he seems to be enjoying this a little too much. And what I mean by that is, when I see him there, he's a very smart guy. He's clearly brilliant, in an academic sense, at least. And he's enjoying the sparring, and he's going through he's teaching a law class, and he loves going through the cases and the history of it. And I watch him and I'm like, look, that's great and interesting if you're an appellate judge, or, if you have ambitions to be a Supreme Court justice, but or the highest court in your state, whichever that could be called. But you're a trial court judge. Set a freaking trial date.
Right, exactly. I thought he's been pretty good, except he let that Fani Willis thing go way, way, way upriver. They didn't have the basis for even getting out of the gate, I thought. But look, this was his, so I agree. But this was sort of day one of stage 2 of the case, right? And where he takes up one big, chunky, but meritless Trump motion on the First Amendment, which has been disposed of by Chutkan, among others. And then, interestingly, no one covered it, some about David Schaefer. And I think you put your finger on it, Ben. What we need, the trial date serves a few things, but one thing it serves, especially in that David Schaefer, he's sort of the first among equals in the Georgia defendants, is what it will get pleas. It will definitely get pleas. If it's 3 weeks from now and he still hasn't done anything, I'm with you. But this was really his first day back after the gap year, as it were, of the Fani Willis sideshow. So, he served up a couple motions. Let's do that. But he has dates in front of him. And I would expect him. In fact, to set a date in fairly short order. A general hovering question here, by the way. People say that I don't think this is really right, as I've looked into it more. But jury selection will take months and months. What will happen in this case if it starts in October and it hasn't gone to a jury, but you've had a lot of evidence? We talked in another take today about all the stuff from Team Normal, Pat Philbin. If there's really vivid evidence of misconduct by Trump, does that move the needle, or does it have to be a conviction? But in any event, I think your point's well taken, but the jury's out, as it were, as to whether McAfee's going to set a date in fairly short order.
Well, look, it's not a weekend if we don't get hot takes from Harry Littman and myself. I love doing these duets together. We hope all of you appreciate it. And I think we go into a little more detail here.
We go for the nuances, Ben, you and me.
Come for the nuances and leave with a smile on your face.
There you
Go to
go.
the Talking Feds YouTube channel. They're on their way to 200,000 subs. Subscribe right now. You just search on YouTube. It's free. You go to YouTube, you go Talking Feds, hit subscribe. You'll enjoy it. And also the Talking Feds podcast as well. Harry Littman, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Let's hit subscribe here as well. It is free, and have a great one. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.